Ryo was an ugly, hated, and rejected by everyone. No one had ever respected him, and no one had ever acknowledged his sacrifices no matter what he did, and yet, he was the hero who saved the entire world. He was the warrior who defeated the Demon Queen's army and stood against the strongest enemies when everyone else was unable to fight. But instead of rewarding him for his heroic deeds, the world betrayed him, turned its back on him, and transformed the hero who had saved them into an enemy they hunted without mercy. And when he lost everything, he found himself with only one path left: to join the Demon Queen herself and take revenge on the world that had betrayed him. Ryo was an ordinary young man standing amidst ruined buildings. He was lost and had no idea what he should do. Suddenly, he heard someone calling out to him, "Run, run, and continue the rest of your life far away from here. Achieve everything that you failed to achieve before." Ryo responded to those words and continued walking through the rain and across snow-covered mountains until he arrived at a ruined castle where not a single corner remained intact. He stepped inside and recalled memories of the past as he told himself that he had never expected to return to this place again. After that, he walked toward one of the rooms and knocked on its door. It opened immediately before him. There was a girl sitting upon a throne, and 4 people were standing around her. That girl was the Demon King, Echidna, while the others were her 4 generals. He approached them with extreme caution, and no one was able to discover his identity. He continued moving forward until he stood directly in front of them, then removed the covering from his face. At that moment, everyone was shocked the instant they saw him. That person was none other than the hero, Ryo. Ryo announced that he had come to submit an application to join the Demon King's army. He immediately began showing off his skills and abilities with great enthusiasm. Echidna shouted angrily and demanded to know how he dared to come to this place. Then she used fire magic and burned his clothes. Ryo tried to persuade her once again, but she hated him deeply. He asked her to forget what had happened in the past, but she completely refused. He tried to make up for what he had done, yet she insisted on rejecting his admission into the army once and for all. On the other side, just 1 year earlier, the Demon King's army led by Echidna had launched a massive invasion against human territory and destroyed everything it could reach. During that time, Ryo was the hero of the kingdom and had received orders from the king to completely eliminate the Demon King's army. Ryo gathered a group of warriors to assist him in battle, but they were not truly useful. They spent more time arguing among themselves than helping him. Even so, Ryo was incredibly powerful and managed to destroy the entire Demon King's army by himself. He was not merely a powerful knight, he was also an expert in using both weapons and magic. Not only that, but he even succeeded in defeating the Demon King herself. Returning to the present, Ryo wondered why they refused to let him join. At that moment, the lion-like general spoke. "Everything can be solved with strength except love. Love requires understanding, and it is obvious that Echidna cannot stand you because of what you did to her." Ryo explained that he had already apologized and tried to open a new chapter, but she had completely closed the matter. Then one of the girls intervened and informed him that they had only agreed to meet him because he claimed to possess information that would help them rebuild the army. She demanded that he get straight to the point. Ryo replied confidently, "You are all talking for nothing. I have already defeated every one of you before. I can reveal the weaknesses of each of you, but on one condition. You must allow me to join the army." The lion-like general immediately accepted his proposal and confirmed his support for him. Ryo began recalling his previous battles against the 4 generals. The first was General Edvard, the Dragon Sword General. He had been the strongest opponent among them. Ryo was unable to defeat him until he added magic to their battle. The second was Shadow General Murnus, a half-human and half-demon warrior. He was the second strongest of the generals and was known for his tremendous speed. Ryo only succeeded in defeating him after activating a devastating spell that reduced the entire area to ruins. That place was not an ordinary location. It was a historical site that the villagers treasured greatly. The third was the wild general, Lily. Ryo met her by chance beneath a tree while taking shelter from the rain. At first, he believed that she had lost her memories, so he took her with him and cared for her. Several days later, she regained her memories, and it turned out that she was the wild General Lily. She attempted to attack him, but he defeated her with ease. Afterwards, she stood up and hugged him because the traditions of her village stated that a woman must marry the man who defeats her. The fourth was Magic General Shutina, the strongest when it came to the use of magic. She was capable of activating both ancient magic and modern magic alike. Because of that, Ryo used a spell from ancient magic that nullified the effects of the spells surrounding her. Then he confronted her in direct combat and managed to defeat her because her physical strength was extremely weak. After her defeat, she sat there crying for many long minutes. Shutina returned to the present with her face completely red from embarrassment. Then she asked Leo what he truly wanted and why he was trying so hard to join the army. At that moment, Leo decided to reveal the entire truth. He explained that after defeating Echidna and the 4 generals, he returned to the capital expecting to be treated as a hero and to receive respect and appreciation. After all, he had risked his life countless times on the battlefield. He had fought through endless battles, endured wounds that would have killed ordinary people, and carried the burden of protecting an entire world on his shoulders. Deep inside, he believed that once everything was over, he would finally be able to rest. He thought that the people he had protected would welcome him home with gratitude and that the kingdom would acknowledge the sacrifices he had made for their sake. But what he found was the complete opposite. People began insulting him and calling him a monster. Everyone became afraid of him and avoided getting close to him. Wherever he went, frightened eyes followed him. Children hid behind their parents, merchants closed their doors when he passed by, and even the citizens he had once saved looked at him with fear rather than gratitude. They even hung up pictures of him everywhere and declared that he was unfit to live among them in the same city. To them, he was no longer a hero. He had become something terrifying, a being whose power had surpassed human understanding. They described him as the second demon king and even sent a group of madmen to assassinate him. However, he managed to eliminate them with ease before heading to the royal palace to meet the king. Even then, he still hoped there had been some misunderstanding. He believed that if he spoke directly with the king, everything would be resolved. But even the king himself told him that he could no longer remain in the city because the people no longer accepted him. There was no gratitude in the king's voice, only helplessness and resignation. He ordered Leo to leave the city immediately. Even though Leo possessed more than enough power to wipe them all out, he respected the king's order and left without resistance. He did not draw his sword. He did not threaten anyone. He simply turned around and walked away from the place he had spent so many years protecting. Since that day, he had continued to wonder whether good or evil was what truly filled his heart. He never understood why they treated him that way, despite the fact that he had saved them and single-handedly destroyed the entire Demon King's army. The more he thought about it, the less he understood humanity. He had fought for them. He had protected them. Yet in the end, they feared him more than they feared the enemies he had defeated. He no longer had a home to return to, so he wandered from one city to another and from one country to the next without a goal or destination. Days became months, and months became years. He traveled through countless lands, crossed mountains and forests, and visited cities he had never seen before. Yet no matter where he went, he could never find a place where he truly belonged. The loneliness in his heart only continued to grow. Then one day, he heard that the Demon King's army had begun recruiting new members to rebuild its forces. For the first time, he felt that his life might regain its meaning, and that he might finally find a place where he belonged once again. The idea seemed ridiculous at first. The hero joining the Demon King's army was something no one would ever believe. Yet the more he thought about it, the more reasonable it seemed. The humans had rejected him. Perhaps the demons would not. He knew that Echidna would not accept him easily, so he prepared thoroughly for the interview and endured many hardships until he finally reached the castle. The journey itself was far from easy. He had to conceal his identity, avoid attracting attention, and carefully plan every step. Even after arriving, he knew there was a high chance that he would be rejected immediately. And there, the events that everyone had witnessed took place. After hearing his story, Lily was deeply moved and began to cry. She could not hide her emotions after learning everything he had gone through. Shutina was also affected by his story and agreed to let him join, but only on the condition that Echidna would not learn about it, because she would become extremely angry if she discovered the truth. In the end, the generals decided to grant him a 1-month probation period. Shutina would be responsible for evaluating his performance and abilities. If he failed to prove his worth, he would be expelled immediately. Leo accepted the condition, and everyone within the Demon King's army welcomed him. For the first time in a very long while, he felt as though someone had finally given him a chance. That night, Leo sat alone thinking about the fastest way to help them rebuild the army. He also wanted to meet Echidna and ask her why she had ordered her soldiers during the last invasion not to kill children, women, or the elderly. To him, that was something very strange for a demon king to do. The more he thought about it, the more curious he became. Because of that, he decided to improve his relationship with Echidna and uncover the real reason behind it. The next day, Ryo began his work within the army and headed toward Shutina's room to wake her up. The door was locked, so he used magic and managed to open it. Then he stepped inside to wake her, but Shutina had absolutely no desire to wake up. Ryo tried to wake her up again and again, but it was completely useless. At that point, he changed his voice until it became identical to the voice of the Demon King, Echidna, and shouted angrily, "Why are you still sleeping? You were supposed to start your work a long time ago." Shutina immediately began apologizing while she was still half asleep. About 30 minutes later, she finally opened her eyes and was shocked to find Ryo standing in front of her. At that very moment, she unleashed her magic directly at him and shattered the wall of the room above his head. She then spent a long time scolding him while he tried to convince her that he had done nothing that deserved such treatment and that he had only come to wake her up. However, she became even angrier and attempted to attack him once again. During all of this, it became clear that she had been awake throughout the entire night, searching for a solution that could save the Demon King's army from its crisis and help it regain its strength. The main reason behind everything that was happening was what Ryo had done to the army in the past. In addition to that, many soldiers had returned to the kingdom for treatment, causing all the work and responsibilities to pile up on the shoulders of the 4 generals. There was no one capable of handling those tasks efficiently except Shutina, so she was forced to carry everything by herself. As a result, she no longer even had time to sleep. Ryo continued blocking all of her attacks and told her that he had only come to help, but she remained annoyed with him and ordered him not to repeat what he had done again. After that, she changed her clothes and walked directly toward him. Ryo began reviewing the required tasks and reorganized them according to priority. Then he asked her why those duties were not being distributed among the other members. She answered that there was no one with enough ability to carry out those tasks properly. At that point, Ryo pointed at one of the assignments and said that it belonged to him and that he would personally take care of it. Shutina immediately agreed and told him to go and complete it. However, she suddenly remembered something important and informed him that he had to perfectly imitate the wavelength of her magical energy. The magic reactors he was going to recharge would explode instantly if they received energy that differed from their original source. Ryo told her that he understood and promised that all the reactors would be fully charged within only 2.5 hours. Shutina was surprised and told him that she could complete the same work in only 30 minutes. Ryo replied that it was simply a difference in abilities and promised that he would not disappoint her. She finally agreed, but warned him not to let Echidna see him while carrying out the task. Ryo answered confidently, declaring that he was the person who would rebuild the army and allow everyone to live in safety. After that, he changed his appearance and decided to use the name Hard. He walked outside, and the moment one of the girls saw him, she immediately ran away from the area. Sometime later, Ryo returned after only 30 minutes and informed Shutina that he had already completed the entire task. She assumed that he was joking and told him to prepare for another assignment, but Ryo refused for the moment and told her that he was tired and wanted to sit beside her and watch her work. She reluctantly agreed and told him to recover his energy quickly because many other tasks were waiting for him. Ryo took advantage of the opportunity in the best possible way and sat there resting for a long time. Half an hour passed. Then, an hour passed. Then, 2 full hours passed, and he never moved from his spot. In the end, Shutina tried to force him to stand up, but he used magic to make his body heavier and refused to move before he felt completely rested. More time passed, and her anger continued to grow. She told him that she knew very well that he was lazy and that he would do nothing except get in her way. She even started thinking about getting rid of him completely for the good of the kingdom. She actually activated a magic spell and prepared to attack him. But at the critical moment, a knock was heard at the door. The girl who had run away immediately after seeing him earlier entered the room and announced that the assigned task had already been completed. She then handed Shutina a magic jewel and informed her that she had helped recharge the reactor and that the process had been completed without any side effects. The moment Shutina heard that, she was shocked and quickly asked who had recharged the reactors. The girl answered that Ryo was the one who had done it. She then confirmed that the spell had been perfect and that the entire process had been completed successfully. At that point, Ryo asked her to give him a chance to explain what he had done during the 30 minutes when he had disappeared. He explained that he had gone to the tool workshop inside the castle and found a magic stone there. He then charged it with energy carrying the exact same wavelength as Shutina's magic. As a result, anyone using that stone would be able to produce energy completely identical to her magical power. Afterward, he asked the girl to find other people to help with the work. Since Shutina was extremely busy, he assigned them the task of recharging the reactors in her place. He then explained that everyone had been worried about her health and that she needed to allow others to help her and carry part of the burden. Shutina was moved by his words and thanked him before leaving the room. On the other side, the girl left together with Ryo and asked him why he had not told Shutina from the beginning that other people would be carrying out the task. Ryo answered that if he had told her from the start, she would have rejected the idea completely. That was why he had to carry out his plan first and force her to accept help afterward. However, the girl told him that this did not justify spending 2 entire hours eating and sleeping inside the office, and that he deserved punishment for what he had done. Ryo then explained that he had not actually been slacking off. Instead, he had been monitoring the progress of the work and identifying which tasks could be distributed among the other members. The girl became embarrassed the moment she heard that and hurriedly apologized to him. Ryo told her that there was no need to apologize. Then he announced that he would head off to complete his next mission, and indeed, he managed to complete the second task as well. When night finally arrived, he returned to Shutina and asked whether there were any other jobs that needed to be completed. She informed him that the crazy Lily had gone out on a mission to secure the food supplies needed for the army. However, the real problem was not the mission itself. The real problem was the report that Lily had sent regarding it. Instead of writing a proper report, the pages were filled with incomprehensible drawings and random scribbles. Because of that, Shutina informed Ryo that the mission could turn into a disaster if the issue was not resolved as quickly as possible. As expected, Ryo headed to the island and finally arrived there. Once he got there, he discovered that Lily had completely abandoned the mission she had come for. Her trip had turned into something resembling a vacation filled with games and fun, as if she had come to enjoy herself rather than work. At that moment, Ryo recalled what Shutina had told him about that island. It was the island of the dragon folk. That race had managed to coexist with humans for a long time after being defeated by the demons. However, humans later began persecuting them and attempting to wipe them out. Because of that, they left the human cities and decided to live on an island of their own. Speaking of Shutina, she had confirmed that this had indeed happened. However, she explained that they later succeeded in signing a peace treaty with the dragon folk. Not only that, but the dragon folk had also decided to assist the Demon King's army in its struggle against humanity through the supplies they regularly sent to them. That was why it was absolutely necessary for the supplies Lily had come to collect to reach their destination at any cost. However, none of the reports she had sent so far looked promising in the slightest. Ryo asked why they had not sent Edvard instead of her. She answered that they could not do that because Edvard was responsible for protecting the castle. If he left for the island, he would end up taking care of everything himself, and that was something they could not allow at the moment. Returning to the island, Lily was running around everywhere while everyone chased after her without being able to catch her. After some time, everyone arrived at the gate completely exhausted. Lily then informed them that what they had done was enough for today and that they would continue tomorrow. After saying that, she went back to playing as if nothing had happened. Meanwhile, Ryo sat beneath a tree, praying that the mission would pass peacefully without any problems. While thinking, he realized that putting all the people in the city to work would be enough to finish everything in only 2 days. At the same time, Lily continued playing and causing trouble for everyone around her. Ryo returned to the tent and began thinking of a solution that would preserve the peace between the Demon King's army and the dragon folk. The residents of the island were no longer satisfied with what was happening. If the situation continued like this, the Demon King's army would lose the very group that supplied it with resources. During that time, Lily entered the tent and noticed that Ryo looked exhausted. She decided to search for medicine for him. After a long time, she finally managed to find the medicine and returned to the tent. However, she found him lying on the bed in terrible condition. Ryo told her that he had been poisoned, that his remaining days were numbered, and that he had one final wish he wanted her to fulfill before his death. Lily approached him anxiously. He told her that all he wanted was for her to transport the supplies and complete the mission as quickly as possible. But Lily refused to give up and told him that she would search for the treatment needed to save him. Ryo then informed her that the required herbs could be found deep within the forest. Lily immediately understood and dashed toward the forest at full speed. The moment she left, Ryo used healing magic and completely cured himself. At that point, it became clear that everything he had done was merely part of a plan to teach Lily how to take responsibility and complete the mission as quickly as possible. He had even prepared a series of obstacles and traps along the way. She would not be able to overcome them unless she learned how to cooperate with the members of her army. On the other side, Lily was running with all her strength in order to save him. She transformed into a wolf to increase her speed and power, hoping to reach the herbs within moments. However, things were not that simple. Suddenly, a massive barrier appeared before her in the form of an enormous boulder. She tried to destroy it again and again, but failed completely because Leo had placed a special magic spell on it. Leo watched from a distance, believing that she would return to the village and ask the others for help. But Lily surprised him once again. Instead of returning, she gathered all her courage and continued striking the rock over and over until she finally managed to destroy it completely. Leo was shocked and swore that she would not overcome the second obstacle so easily. This time he created a massive wall of slimes. Every time one of them was destroyed, it came back to life again. He had also hidden the true core inside one of them. Lily attempted to get past the barrier, but failed at first. However, she noticed that one slime was slightly different from the others. She immediately attacked it and successfully destroyed the true core, causing the entire barrier to collapse. Thus, she overcame the second obstacle with ease as well. She continued running to save Leo, but this time Leo decided to intervene personally. Lily arrived at the third obstacle, which was an enormous mansion. There, a strange man appeared before her. She did not know that it was actually Leo disguised as someone else. The man told her that he was a traveler, and unfortunately could not cross that barrier. He added that he wished he had someone capable of flying who could help him cross it and save someone dear to him. Lily wished him well and told him that she was extremely busy. Then she tried searching for another way to cross the barrier. But once again, she failed. The man then said that if he had friends who could fly, he would ask for their help immediately. At that moment, Lily understood the message he was trying to convey. She thanked him before leaving. Leo's heart filled with happiness, believing that she had finally understood the lesson and would return to ask for help. But things did not go as he had hoped. Instead, Lily decided to handle everything herself. She jumped into the water and told herself that if the goal would not come to her, then she would go to it herself. She then crossed to the other side and successfully overcame the obstacle entirely. Leo stood there completely stunned by what he was seeing. He realized that all of his plans were falling apart one after another. From sheer frustration and exhaustion, he lost consciousness and collapsed onto the ground. The following day, he woke up to find that Lily had already returned with the required herbs. He thanked her for saving him while pretending that he had truly been sick. However, Lily told him that she had finally decided to allow everyone to help her because she had met a tourist the previous day who advised her to rely on her friends and ask them for help whenever she needed it. Leo understood the situation in a completely different way and immediately apologized to her. After that, everyone succeeded in working together, and they managed to transport all of the supplies to the capital within a very short period of time. Leo returned to the castle and told Shutina everything that had happened on the island. He explained that Lily had become more self-reliant after the experience she went through. He was happy because he had managed to teach her a lesson that would benefit her in the future. But his happiness did not last long. A message arrived that turned everything upside down. It turned out that the Demon King Echidna had heard about the achievements of the Black Knight and had requested a personal meeting with him. Leo immediately panicked when he heard that and had no idea how he should handle the situation. He returned to his room and went to sleep, but his sleep was far from peaceful. In the middle of the night, he woke up in terror from a nightmare that brought back memories of the past. Throughout his life, he had constantly fought against monsters until he himself became an invincible monster in the eyes of others. He remembered one mission in which he had been ordered to eliminate a group of demons who were destroying a city. The moment he saw them, he rushed toward them without hesitation and wiped them all out with absolute ease. None of them were able to stand against him, and every attempt to kill him ended in failure. As for the people of the city, they did not feel relieved after the battle ended. Instead, they became even more afraid of him. The next day, Leo headed to meet Echidna. From the very beginning, he was surprised by the way she treated him. He had concealed his scent and altered some of his features so that she would not recognize him, and his plan had worked perfectly. Echidna welcomed him warmly and told him that she had insisted on meeting him as soon as she heard about his achievements. She wanted to personally thank him for everything he had done for the army. Before he could even reply, she invited him to sit down and asked what he would like to drink. Leo refused and told her that he had many tasks that needed to be completed. but she ignored that and decided to start sharing a meal with him immediately. The two sat together, and Echidna began talking about the state of the army and her desire to rebuild it as quickly as possible. During the conversation, she noticed that he was behaving very cautiously while eating. She moved closer and tried to remove his helmet, telling him that she wanted to see him and speak with him face to face. She actually reached out and removed the helmet. Fortunately for Ryo, she failed to discover his identity because he had already altered his appearance in preparation for a situation like this. The two sat down once again and continued their conversation, and the day passed peacefully. During their discussion, the name of the hero Ryo was mentioned. The moment Echidna heard it, her expression immediately changed, and obvious anger appeared on her face. She firmly stated that she never wanted to hear his name again, and that his previous interference had prevented her from obtaining the Philosopher's Stone. The Philosopher's Stone was a legendary treasure preserved beneath the royal capital under heavy protection. The legends claimed that the first king had discovered it 6,000 meters beneath the ground and that it possessed unimaginable power. As for Ryo, he had used the stone before and had never noticed it granting any extraordinary power. Even so, he was certain that Echidna desired it for an important reason. Because of that, he asked her what she intended to do if she obtained it. In truth, that was the question he had wanted answered from the very beginning. After her defeat, she should have returned to the demon lands and accepted reality, but she had not done that. That was why he knew there was a deeper reason behind everything she was doing. When he asked why she was so determined to obtain the Philosopher's Stone, she took him outside and showed him the green landscapes surrounding them. Then she explained that those beautiful lands existed within the world of humans, while the lands of the demons were completely different. They were barren and poor lands that were almost devoid of trees and vegetation. Even grass and food resources were extremely scarce there. That was the reason why endless conflicts continued to erupt between the various clans. Then she revealed her true dream. She was not seeking war or destruction. She wanted to spread peace and happiness among her people. She dreamed of them living the same way humans did, surrounded by gardens, orchards, and clean air. All she wanted for her people was a normal and dignified life. That was why she believed they needed to reorganize their army, work together, and obtain the Philosopher's Stone in order to achieve that dream. Ryo was deeply moved by her words because he knew she was speaking honestly. At that moment, he decided that he would help her obtain the stone. However, while they were discussing the future and their dreams, something unexpected happened that turned everything upside down. Shadow General Myrnus and Dragon Sword General Edvard suddenly announced their resignations from their positions. As a result, 2 general positions within the Demon King's army became vacant. Ryo immediately told Echidna that he would handle this problem himself. Returning to Myrnus, he was sitting alone on the seashore and looked as though he had lost all passion for life. Ryo approached him and tried to check on him, but Myrnus asked him to leave him alone because he was not in the mood to talk. Ryo, however, refused to back down. He told him that he completely understood how he felt and that he understood the feeling of loneliness and not belonging anywhere. Myrnus was surprised by those words and asked whether he really thought the two of them were alike. Ryo confidently replied that he was capable of surprising him. Then he began scolding him for lying to everyone and claiming that he was going on a journey, when in reality he was running away from his responsibilities. He reminded him that he was one of the 4 generals and that he had no right to abandon his duties so easily, but Myrnus responded that he was useless to the army in the first place. He had failed in his previous mission, and he believed that meant he did not deserve his position. He even told Ryo that he deserved the position more than he did, because in only a few days he had managed to achieve great accomplishments within the army. Ryo smiled and told him that if Echidna ever discovered his true identity among them, he would never survive her wrath. Then he asked him to return to the castle because everyone had started worrying about him, but Myrnus attempted to leave and end the conversation. Ryo had already prepared for that. He pulled out an iron chain and fastened it around Myrnus's leg to prevent him from escaping. Even then, Myrnus continued to ignore him and covered his ears with his hands as though he could not hear anything. Ryo finally let out a sigh and told him that he would not stop him from leaving if that was truly what he wanted, and that the road ahead was completely open to him. Silence filled the space between them for several moments. Then Myrnus finally decided to speak. He asked Ryo whether he truly wanted to know the reason he wished to leave both the army and the kingdom. Ryo replied that he wanted to know the entire truth. At that point, Myrnus began explaining what had happened. Several days earlier, an important meeting had been held within the kingdom. Normally, he never attended such meetings, but this time he had been forced to participate. During the meeting, he felt extremely nervous and had no idea how he should act or what he should say. He admitted that he was an introverted person who constantly felt isolated and that he had been completely unable to handle the situation. For that reason, he decided to leave before causing an even bigger problem for the kingdom. He also revealed that another meeting would take place in only 3 days, and that he was afraid he would repeat the same mistakes and ruin everything once again. For that reason, Ernest spent a long time thinking about the matter. In the end, he concluded that the best solution for both himself and the kingdom was to leave and disappear from their lives completely. But all of that had been before Ryo came and spoke with him. Ernest had already decided to travel around the world, visit different countries, meet new people, and learn how to interact with them. Once he was ready, he planned to return to the Demon King's army. However, after speaking with Ryo, his opinion changed somewhat. He told Ryo that he wanted him to teach him how to deal with people and how to talk to them, especially since the next meeting would take place only 3 days later. Ryo smiled and told him that he was not the right person to give advice in that area. He himself had been rejected by society before joining the Demon King's army, and his feelings of loneliness had been one of the reasons that pushed him to join them. But Ernest insisted on his request. Afterward, he tried to leave and end the conversation, but Ryo did not let him go. He grabbed him with the chain once again and told him not to be stubborn and that he had only been joking with him. Then he asked him once more how much time remained before the meeting. Ernest replied that only 3 days were left. Ryo immediately assured him that it was enough and that he would be able to learn how to communicate with others during that period. Ernest was delighted by those words. After that, Ryo went to meet the Demon King Echidna and informed her of everything that had happened. During the meeting, Lily nearly revealed Ryo's real name in front of Echidna because of her excitement. However, she caught herself at the last moment and everything passed peacefully. After that, Ryo asked them about Edvard. They told him that when they went to meet him, they found him attempting to take his own life. However, every sword he used shattered before he could harm himself. They also tried to talk to him and learn the reason, but he refused to tell them anything. Because of that, they left him under the care of his young daughter, hoping that she would be able to look after him. Ryo simply listened to the story and then announced that he was going to sleep. The next day, he took Ernest with him to a restaurant. His goal was for Ernest to interact with as many people as possible, because the restaurant was the perfect place to practice social communication. The two of them began working there while the chefs prepared the food. Their task was simply to deliver orders to the customers. At first, everything went perfectly. Dishes continuously came out of the kitchen, and every order reached its owner without any problems. After some time, however, a group of mercenaries entered the restaurant. Ernest approached them and took their orders. While they were talking, one of them behaved rudely toward him. He even mistook him for a girl and tried to approach him in an inappropriate manner, but Ernest did not allow him to cross the line. In a single moment, he grabbed the man's arm and broke it. The rest of the mercenaries immediately became furious and attacked him together. However, Ernest defeated all of them within mere seconds. Not a single one of them was able to stand against him. The elderly owner of the restaurant stood there applauding him with admiration, while the mercenaries quickly apologized and left the place. After they departed, Ryo returned to helping him once again. He began explaining how to start conversations with people and how to end them. He also taught him how to manage simple daily discussions. But suddenly, Ernest surprised him with an unexpected question. He asked Ryo about the real reason that had led him to join the Demon King's army. Ryo froze in place for a moment. He had never expected such a question to come from Ernest. In the end, he answered that he had already stated his goal before, and that all he wanted was to destroy humanity. Ernest shook his head, refusing to believe that. He told him that if his goal truly was to destroy humanity, he could have accomplished it alone long ago, especially after defeating the demon armies completely during the previous war. Ryo became flustered and did not know how to respond, so Ernest decided to reveal his own truth first. He explained that his life had been filled with suffering since childhood. He had lived as a slave, bought and sold from one master to another, and passed from one owner to the next. The last time he was sold, he ended up in the hands of someone who taught him all the fundamentals of combat. Indeed, he killed his first target while he was still a small child. He stated that humans were the ones who had taught him cruelty and violence. Even though he had killed countless humans, he had possessed another reason for joining the Demon King's army. At first, he simply wanted to find out how many humans he would be able to kill if he became a demon. But what he found was completely different from what he had expected. After the demons invaded cities, he did not witness them slaughtering innocent people as he had imagined. On the contrary, they treated people with kindness and respect. That was when he realized the true difference between humans and demons. After thinking about it for a long time, he decided to join their ranks. He even witnessed humans and demons living together and cooperating, eating and drinking side by side. Then he returned to the main subject. He explained that when Leo defeated him in the past, he had expected to be killed, but Leo spared his life. At that time, Leo had told him that the world was filled with beautiful places and that one should not judge things solely by their appearance. After finishing his story, he told Leo that those were his true motivations. Then he asked Leo about his own motivations. Leo was deeply moved by his words, to the point that tears almost escaped from his eyes. However, he quickly hid his emotions and mocked him, saying that he looked as though he were about to cry. Then he decided to reveal part of his past. He explained that in a certain era, humanity had been on the verge of extinction after monsters gained control over most parts of the world. Because of that, a large number of scientists gathered together to create weapons capable of stopping that invasion and saving humanity. Those weapons were known as the Demon Heart series. The series consisted of 10 individuals who had been created using the power of the Philosopher's Stone. Leo was one of them. Together with his comrades, he participated in countless wars and battles. Unfortunately, their preparations were not enough. As a result, all of his companions died one after another until he was the only survivor left. With every battle he fought, his power continued to grow more and more until he became the person he was today. But after everything he had done for humanity, all he received in return was hatred and rejection. Instead of acknowledging his contributions, people treated him like a worthless outcast. That was the reason he ultimately decided to join the Demon King's army. After he finished telling his story, Mernes felt saddened for him. However, he quickly hid those feelings and told Leo to leave because he wanted to sleep. Leo laughed, gave him some space, turned off the lights, and wished him a peaceful night. The following morning, the daughter of General Edvard came to see him. She introduced herself as Giulietta. Then she began explaining the real reason that had driven her father into his current state. She told him that Edvard's duty was to train the new recruits within the Demon King's army. That was because he was the strongest among them and the most experienced on the battlefield. However, during the training sessions, the recruits showed no improvement whatsoever. Their abilities did not develop, their strength did not increase, and most of them were extremely weak. Even worse, a large number of them abandoned the army only minutes after training began. At that point, Edvard gradually began to lose hope. He felt that if things continued like this, there would not be a single recruit left in the army. As time passed, he became increasingly frustrated and irritable. Eventually, he even started telling the recruits that if they were in his place, they would prefer death over living in such a state. That was when Leo realized that Edvard's condition was far worse than he had expected. Leo confirmed the same information. At that point, Edvard regained his confidence. The hesitation that had been weighing him down moments earlier disappeared from his eyes. He tightened his grip on his weapon, took a deep breath, and charged directly toward the golem. His movements were sharp and decisive once again, just as they had been in his prime. Within moments, he managed to destroy the golem. The massive creature collapsed with a deafening crash, sending dust and debris flying across the battlefield. After the battle ended, Edvard walked over to Giulietta and thanked her for her help. For a moment, the proud general lowered his head and admitted that he would never have achieved victory without her support. Giulietta smiled softly, clearly relieved to see her father standing tall again. But the surprise was that the golem had not been completely defeated. Just before its destruction, it had transmitted a signal to the other golems scattered throughout the surrounding region. Soon afterward, countless golems began moving toward the mine with the intention of destroying it completely. The crisis immediately became even greater than before. The ground trembled beneath their footsteps, and clouds of dust rose into the sky as the army of magical constructs advanced. Leo quickly realized that he could not handle everything alone. Suddenly, Shutina and Echidna arrived on the battlefield. Mernes and Lily also appeared shortly afterward. Everyone immediately joined forces to save the miners and eliminate the golems before they could reach their destination. The generals began evacuating civilians from the area as quickly as possible. Workers, miners, and their families were rushed away from danger while the sounds of battle echoed throughout the valley. Meanwhile, Echidna demonstrated exactly why she was feared throughout both worlds. Each strike she unleashed was enough to destroy an entire golem instantly. Her overwhelming magical power left everyone speechless. As for Leo, he continued provoking Edvard throughout the battle. He repeatedly asked how someone with so much experience could remain ignorant of simple concepts such as lasers and magical machinery. He even remarked that everyone seemed to understand those things except him. At first, Edvard grew irritated by those comments. However, as Leo continued speaking, something slowly began to change inside him. Leo was using the exact same methods Edvard had once used against his own recruits. Every harsh criticism, every unrealistic expectation, every dismissive remark, they were all reflections of his own behavior. At that moment, Edvard finally realized the truth. He had been treating new recruits exactly the same way. He expected them to understand everything immediately. He expected them to perform perfectly, despite lacking experience. And whenever they failed, he blamed their shortcomings, rather than his own inability to teach them properly. Leo pushed even further. He told Edvard that if he truly wanted to retire, then perhaps he should. After all, he had become nothing more than a burden on the four generals. The words struck Edvard harder than any attack. This time, however, Julieta stepped forward. She looked directly at her father and calmly explained that knowledge was not something everyone acquired at the same pace. Just because one person knew something did not mean everyone else should know it as well. Every individual possessed different talents, different strengths, and different ways of learning. Some learned quickly, others required time and guidance. Neither approach was wrong. She also reminded him that experience was something earned over years of effort. It could never be gained overnight. At that point, Edvard finally understood the mistake he had been making all this time. The realization hit him harder than any battlefield wound. Then he slowly turned around. Standing behind him were all of his soldiers, every recruit, every trainee, every person he had believed had given up on him. They were all there, one after another. They told him that they had been waiting for his return. They wanted to continue training under him. They wanted him to remain their instructor. And despite everything that had happened, they still respected him. Edvard was deeply moved by their words. For a moment, he could not even find the strength to speak. Then he bowed his head and apologized sincerely for everything he had said and done. The bitterness that had consumed him for so long finally began to disappear. With that, things returned to normal once again. As for Echidna, even after destroying every last golem, she continued attacking their remains with relentless force. Each explosion sent fragments flying in every direction. It almost looked as though she were venting years of frustration and anger through every strike. The next day, Leo was sitting quietly while reading a book. For once, the castle was peaceful. The sounds of battle had faded, replaced by silence. A short while later, Shutina entered the room. She informed him that Echidna was waiting for him and that she was most likely considering offering him a leadership position within the army. Then she added that when the right time came, she would help reveal his true identity to Echidna. During their conversation, her eyes fell upon the book in his hands. She pointed toward it and mentioned that Echidna had been reading the exact same book recently. That only increased her curiosity. She wondered what made the book so special. Why did both of them seem so attached to it? But Leo simply smiled and replied that there was nothing special about it. After Shutina left, silence returned to the room. Leo remained seated alone, staring at the book resting in his hands. His gaze slowly drifted across the worn pages. Before long, memories of the distant past began surfacing within his mind. He remembered one of the final battles he had fought against the Demon King's army. At that time, only a single weak demon remained before him. The battlefield around them had already fallen silent. Countless demons had been defeated. Only one survivor remained. Leo raised his sword and pointed it toward the demon, preparing to end the battle once and for all. But before he could strike, the demon asked him to stop and listen. He told Leo that he had spent years killing demons one after another, without ever understanding the true reason behind their actions. Then he asked whether Leo even knew why the demons had come to the human world in the first place. Leo admitted that he did not know. At that point, the demon revealed the truth. He explained that the previous Demon King had once been showing off his magical power. During that display, he unleashed a massive attack toward the sky. However, the attack tore the heavens apart and opened a gate connecting the demon world and the human world. When the demons saw the beauty of that new world, they became fascinated by it. They wanted to cross over and explore it, but they never received that opportunity. Leo appeared and began eliminating them one after another. The demon then told him that he too would now die at Leo's hands. Leo replied that none of this would have happened if the demons had never entered the human world to begin with. but the demon quietly explained that he had never desired war or battle. All he had ever wanted was to live among humans in peace and safety. When Ryo heard that, he told him that the previous demon king had sought nothing but violence and solving problems through force. However, the demon did not seem convinced by that argument at all. The demon told Ryo that the previous demon king, Babylon, had spent an entire 100 years pushing them toward invading the new lands. However, the demon held no respect for that king. He described him as a foolish ruler who cared only about appearances and showing off his magical power. Ryo admitted that his words sounded reasonable. Then the demon suddenly threw himself onto the ground and placed his sword against his own neck. At that moment, he was terrified and believed that his end had finally come. He thought that Ryo had grown tired of listening to him and had decided to kill him at last. But what happened next completely surprised him. Ryo extended his hand toward him and asked him to walk with him for a while. The demon froze in shock, but immediately agreed and accompanied him. After all, that was far better than dying. As they walked together, Ryo returned to the subject of the gate that connected the two worlds. The demon explained that Babylon had been fascinated by his own power during his youth and constantly boasted about it. When the gate opened, none of the demons had wanted to enter it at first. However, the king gathered them together and forced them to participate in the invasion. He justified it by pointing to the lack of resources in the demon world and the desperate need for food. In fact, the king himself never participated in the invasion at all. When he learned that a hero like Ryo existed, he closed the gate connecting the two worlds and abandoned his soldiers to their fate. In other words, he sacrificed all of them for his own sake. The demon then explained that the demons had believed humans were weak and that conquering the world would be an extremely easy task. But Ryo's appearance turned all of their expectations upside down. He completely shattered their hopes and proved that reality was nothing like what they had imagined. After that, the demon thanked Ryo for listening to his story until the very end. Then he knelt on the ground and apologized for wasting his time before asking him to end his life. But Ryo had no intention of doing that. He returned his sword to its sheath and told him to avoid causing trouble. Then he promised that he would take him somewhere safe where he could spend the rest of his life. The demon was shocked once again. He could not imagine that the person who had slain countless demons could possess such mercy. At that moment, he realized that the image he had created of Ryo was completely wrong. While they continued walking together, the demon asked Ryo for his name. Ryo was surprised by the question and then showed a faint smile. He told him that this was the first time anyone had ever asked him for his name. The demon found that strange and asked whether he did not have a name at all. He then explained that names gave meaning to a person's life. A person might leave this world one day, but their name would remain in the memories of others. He also advised Ryo to build genuine friendships and open his heart to people because the happiness he was searching for could only be found that way. Ryo was deeply affected by those words. Then he told him that everyone called him Ryo, but in truth, he was not a human. He was merely a weapon created for a single purpose. That purpose was protecting the kingdom and defending its people. The demon was surprised by that answer and asked whether his entire life revolved around protecting others. Then he asked him whether he had a dream of his own or something he personally wished to achieve. But Ryo insisted that protecting people was the reason for his existence. The demon then asked another question. What will you do after the war ends? Will you simply return to the place where you were kept and wait for the next danger to appear? Ryo could not find a clear answer. The demon then told him that he needed to live for himself as well. Those words slowly began to affect his heart little by little. However, Ryo tried to avoid the subject and told him that he was the weakest member among the group that had been created alongside him and that he might die before ever reaching that point. The demon was stunned. How could someone with such terrifying power possibly be the weakest? But Ryo confirmed that he had killed countless demons and that his power had continued growing with every battle. Even so, he still considered himself the weakest among them. The demon felt sympathy for him and wished that he would find peace one day. After some time, they arrived at the facility where captured demons were being held. There, Ryo said goodbye to the demon and prepared to leave. But before he could go, the demon called out to him one final time. He told Ryo that he had never expected to become attached to him so quickly and had never imagined the amount of emotions and burdens hidden within his heart. Then he made one final request. He asked Ryo to live for himself, even if only once. Ryo felt a strange happiness as he heard those words. He even wished that he had met that demon long ago. After that, the demon was taken away to the place where he would be kept, while Ryo departed alone. As the years passed, history preserved the memory of that warrior. A book was written that told the story of his life, his goals, and everything he had done for the world. That book was the very same book that Ryo still kept to this day. That was why it was so precious to him. Returning to the present, Ryo was still lost in his memories when he remembered that Echidna was waiting for him. At that moment, he finally decided that he would reveal the truth about himself to her. But before that happened, let us return briefly to the past. More specifically, to the moment when Echidna was preparing the official documents for appointing the Black Knight as a new general within the Demon King's army. During that time, she was reading the very same book that Ryo treasured. It was then revealed just how similar the two of them truly were. She had even prepared a grand banquet to celebrate the appointment of a 5th general for the first time in 70 years. Returning to the present once again, before Echidna could begin speaking, one of the maids rushed into the room. She informed them that the connection between the demon world and the human world was on the verge of collapse. Everyone immediately rushed toward the location of the gate. They worked together to stabilize the connection and keep it functioning for as long as possible. After successfully doing so, they returned to the castle and began discussing the situation. Echidna explained that if the gate collapsed, they would no longer be able to return to the demon world. They would also lose the ability to transport resources and supplies between the two worlds. If that happened, the demon lands would suffer another famine, and all of their efforts would be wasted. For that reason, she stated that they had to make their final decision within the next 2 days. Either they would remain in the human world and continue searching for the Philosopher's Stone, or they would return to the demon world and abandon all of their dreams. Shutina then spoke and pointed out another problem that was just as important. Even if they succeeded in everything, there would still be one dangerous obstacle standing in their way. That obstacle was the hero Ryo. She then asked Hard whether he had ever fought Ryo before. He replied that he had never been fortunate enough to face him and that everything he knew about Ryo came only from what he had heard from others. Meanwhile, he concealed the entire truth within himself. At that point, Echidna announced her final decision. As long as Ryo still existed, all of their plans remained at risk of failure. Therefore, she decided to disband the army and return to the demon world. The moment Lily heard that, she exploded with anger. She tried to defend Ryo and tell everyone the truth. However, Shutina quickly stopped her before she could reveal anything. She then tried to calm her down and explained that the current moment was not suitable for that. After several moments of silence, Echidna stood in front of the window. Sadness and despair were clearly visible on her face. Then she began speaking about the dream she had carried since childhood. Ever since she was young, she had dreamed of becoming the queen who would bring peace to the demon lands. For that reason, she trained and worked hard for many years until she reached her current position. But now, she felt as though everything she had sacrificed for was collapsing before her eyes, and that the dream she had lived for throughout her entire life had finally disappeared. The moment Ryo heard Echidna's words, he was deeply moved. For several seconds, he simply stood there in silence. The determination in her voice and the sadness hidden behind her expression made him realize just how much this dream meant to her. She had dedicated her entire life to it, sacrificed countless things for it, and continued moving forward despite every setback that stood in her way. At that point, he finally removed his helmet and looked at her before saying that the Philosopher's Stone was not nearly as powerful as she imagined. In fact, it did not possess the value that everyone believed it did. Countless legends had exaggerated its abilities over the centuries, turning it into a mythical treasure surrounded by mystery and speculation. However, Ryo knew its true nature better than anyone else. However, he told her that if she was truly confident in her ability to achieve her dream with its help, then he had news that would make her very happy. The Philosopher's Stone was not a single stone as everyone believed. There were originally 2 Philosopher's Stones. One belonged to the demon world, and the other belonged to the human world. Echidna was shocked the moment she heard that. Her eyes widened immediately. Everything she thought she knew about the stone was suddenly being overturned, but her real shock came when she turned around and saw the Black Knight's helmet resting on the table. For a brief moment, time itself seemed to stop. She slowly looked back at Ryo and finally discovered the truth. The Black Knight was none other than the hero Ryo himself. At that point, Ryo returned completely to his true appearance. The disguise disappeared, revealing the face that had once become known throughout the entire world. Then he sincerely apologized for everything he had done. He apologized for being forced to deceive her and hide his identity throughout all that time. There was no arrogance in his voice, only honesty. He explained that he had not found any other choice back then. Then he told her that after seeing her sincere determination and her noble dreams, he had decided to give her one of the Philosopher's Stones. He had also decided to reveal the entire truth about himself. He explained that he had not joined the Demon King's army in order to destroy humanity as he had claimed. His true goal had been to learn her real intentions. At first, he had doubted her. He believed there had to be some hidden agenda behind her actions. Yet the more time he spent observing her and the people around her, the more his doubts disappeared. After everything he had seen from her, he realized that she was a kind person who genuinely sought peace for her people. That was why he asked her to open a new chapter together with him. But Echidna did not accept the truth so easily. Years of hatred could not disappear in a single moment. In the very next moment, she attacked him with all her power. Together, they all set out toward a region of extreme cold. The journey was long and difficult. Freezing winds constantly blew across the mountains, and thick layers of snow covered everything in sight. During the journey, Lily suffered greatly from the freezing temperatures, while Echidna remained alert and ready to pounce on Ryo at the first opportunity. As for Ryo, he continued speaking with her calmly, as though nothing had happened. That only made her angrier and angrier. More than once, she tried to attack him. This time, however, Ryo no longer limited himself to defending. He began responding to her attacks as well. The two continued arguing and fighting throughout the journey. The others could only watch helplessly. At times, their arguments became so ridiculous that even Mernes struggled not to laugh. But as time passed, the atmosphere gradually began to calm down. Little by little, their relationship started to improve. The hostility remained, but it was no longer as intense as before. During the trip, Echidna asked Ryo why he possessed so much knowledge regarding the ancient age of machines. Ryo simply replied that he had been born during that era. Echidna stopped in place from pure shock. She told him that era had ended 3,000 years ago, but Ryo confirmed that he was completely serious. She then asked him whether he knew the demon Bart who was mentioned in the ancient legends. Ryo replied that he had not merely known him. Bart had been one of his closest friends. Echidna became even more astonished. At that point, Ryo revealed the entire truth. He told her the story he had spoken about before and explained how he had been one of the 10 weapons created using the power of the Philosopher's Stone. He revealed that he had carried the number 5 among them. He also explained that he had originally been the weakest of the entire group. However, as time passed and he fought countless battles, his power began to evolve tremendously. For 3,000 full years, he continued growing and developing without ever stopping. The reason for that was his unique ability to copy the skills of his opponents and then evolve them to even greater levels. Every battle made him stronger. Every enemy became another stepping stone in his growth. That was why his current power had become so terrifying. After hearing all of those truths, Echidna realized something important. If Ryo had ever wanted to eliminate all of them, he could have done so within mere moments. Yet despite possessing that overwhelming power, he had never done such a thing. Everyone continued climbing toward their destination. As time passed, their conversations increased. The relationship between Ryo and Echidna also became warmer than before. It became obvious that their feelings were slowly beginning to change. After a long and exhausting journey, they finally reached the summit of the mountain. Everyone was completely exhausted. They asked Ryo about the magical barrier they had come to destroy. They also asked about the Philosopher's Stone he had promised to bring them. Ryo quietly stepped forward. Then he revealed the final truth. He told them that there was no Philosopher's Stone hidden in that place. The real reason he had brought them to the summit was entirely different. He placed his hand on his chest and looked at all of them. Then he explained that the Philosopher's Stone they were searching for existed within his own body. It was the true source of his life and his continued existence. That was the reason he was still alive even now. Silence fell over everyone. The cold wind continued blowing across the mountain peak, yet nobody spoke a single word. Ryo looked at them calmly and said that if they truly wanted the Philosopher's Stone, then only one option remained. They would have to take it from his heart. Then he asked them to kill him and take the stone with their own hands. The 4 generals were completely shocked after hearing Ryo's words. Shutina tried to approach him, but he immediately stopped her. Then he told them that if they tried to run away again, he would destroy the entire mountain and cause the deaths of countless innocent people. Therefore, if they truly wanted to save everyone, they needed to draw their weapons and attack him with everything they had. At that moment, the entire situation seemed to have been turned upside down. The hero had become the villain, while the demons had become the ones trying to save the world. Echidna tried to determine whether he was serious or not, but Leo gave her no opportunity. He vanished from his position and instantly appeared right in front of her before launching a sudden attack. She barely managed to block it and tried to talk to him and bring him back to his senses, but he ignored every word she said. Then he delivered a powerful blow that sent her flying away in a single instant and completely shattered the massive rocks behind her. Edvard stood there in shock as he witnessed that terrifying power. While everyone was distracted by what had happened, Leo seized the opportunity and suddenly attacked Lily. Then he let out a chilling laugh and declared that if the world no longer needed him, then he would force it to need him. He explained that he would destroy everything and recreate the world from the beginning. He would destroy the world first and save it afterward. As far as he was concerned, there was nothing wrong with starting everything over from zero. After that, he used wind magic and attacked Echidna once again. He knocked her to the ground and immediately rushed toward her with his sword, intending to kill her, but Edvard intervened at the last possible moment. He blocked every strike and pushed Leo away from her. Edvard tried to speak with him and calm him down, but Leo was unwilling to listen to anyone. He increased his power even further and nearly delivered a fatal blow to Edvard. At that moment, Shutina quickly stepped in. She used her magic to create an enormous magical sphere and trapped him inside it. Then she gradually began compressing the barrier around him, but Leo gathered his energy and shattered the magical prison completely. The moment he broke free, he kicked Edvard with tremendous force and sent him flying away. Shutina stood there in disbelief. Leo looked at her and told her that her abilities were useless against him. Then he reminded her that if she truly wanted the Philosopher's Stone, she would have to kill him. But Shutina completely rejected that idea. She told him that they no longer wanted the stone at all, if it truly existed within his heart. Then she reminded him of his previous promise, when he had told them that he would never fight them again. She asked him whether everything he had said had been a lie, but Leo coldly replied that if they did not kill him, then he would kill them himself. He then unleashed a massive fire attack toward her. Shutina could do nothing to defend herself. She came dangerously close to losing her life. However, Edvard threw himself in front of her at the last moment and took the attack with his own body to save her. Afterward, Leo attempted to finish him with his sword, but this time Echidna intervened. She stepped directly in front of him. Then she declared that she would personally become his opponent. At that point, Leo finally revealed what had been hidden within his heart. He told them that he was tired of everything. He was tired of his limitless power. He was tired of protecting the world. He was tired of living only for the sake of others. He no longer even knew who he should hate. Should he hate the humans who created him, or should he hate the demons who invaded his world? At that moment, the only thing he truly wished for was death. Everyone stood frozen as they listened to his confession. Meanwhile, Leo raised his hand toward the sky. Within moments, thousands of magical spells appeared above them. Then he announced that he had finally found the solution. He would destroy both the human world and the demon world together. Afterward, he would end his own life. That would be his final revenge against everyone. He unleashed a massive barrage of magic. The entire area was consumed by destruction and explosions. Echidna quickly activated a gigantic defensive barrier, and everyone barely managed to survive. During that time, Echidna realized a terrifying truth. During their previous battle, Leo had been deliberately holding back, but now, no one knew where the limits of his true power actually ended. Before she could finish her thoughts, Lily interrupted her. She was crying intensely as she begged Leo to stop. She reminded him of the mission in which he had helped her before. She told him that he had listened to all of her problems back then. That was why she was now willing to listen to his problems and help him no matter what they were. For a brief moment, Leo returned his sword to its sheath. Then he told her that his real problem was that all of them were weak. The instant he finished speaking, he attacked her without mercy. His attack struck her directly. At that moment, Echidna exploded with rage. She shouted that he had no right to attack unarmed people. Then she charged toward him with all her strength. The two clashed in a violent battle that was evenly matched on both sides. During the fight, Shutina decided to intervene. She prepared the greatest spell in her arsenal. Then, she unleashed legendary lightning magic and struck him directly. But it was not enough. Neither swordsmanship nor the strongest spells left any real mark on him. Ryo laughed loudly. Then he mocked all of them. He demanded that they fight him with everything they had if they truly wanted to save their world. At that point, Edvard declared that he would show him true power. He unleashed every bit of his strength. He even revealed his wings and charged toward him with everything he had. But the result did not change. Ryo caught his sword with a single hand. Then he completely froze the blade. Afterward, he used a devastating fire spell that inflicted severe injuries upon Edvard. Edvard collapsed while screaming in agony. Meanwhile, Ryo laughed as he watched him suffer. As a result, both Lily and Edvard were nearly out of the battle. Echidna's anger only grew stronger. She attacked him once again. At the same time, Shutina used her magic to bind him. Then Echidna unleashed her strongest fire attack against him. But when the flames disappeared, Ryo emerged from the smoke as though nothing had happened. There was not even a single scratch on his body. He effortlessly shattered Shutina's restraints and stepped free without the slightest sign of injury. Everyone was stunned. At that moment, Shutina realized the truth. Ryo did not merely steal their abilities. He improved them and evolved them into versions stronger than the originals. Meanwhile, they only became weaker as the battle continued. If the fight lasted long enough, all of them would eventually die. Ryo approached Shutina, preparing to kill her, but Mernes intervened at exactly the right moment. He took advantage of a brief opening in Ryo's defenses. Then he struck his neck with a powerful blow and managed to wound him. Mernes was surprised that he had failed to sever his head despite the strength of the attack, but Echidna praised what he had accomplished. Then she told him to repeat the attack when another opportunity appeared. As expected, she personally charged at Ryo once more and kept him occupied. She managed to evade a large number of his attacks. However, her strength was still insufficient to defeat him. At that moment, Mernes appeared once again and attempted to deliver a decisive strike. But Ryo told him that he had already chosen the way he would die. Mernes did not retreat. Instead, he told him that he no longer cared about death. The only thing he wanted was to end the suffering of his friend. He added that if Ryo did not stop today, he might truly destroy both worlds. Then Mernes asked him a direct question. Did he really want to destroy the world? If he truly wanted that, he could have done it long ago. He would never have needed to join the Demon King's army in the first place. Ryo stopped for a moment. It seemed as though Mernes's words had affected him. Mernes immediately took advantage of that opening. He activated his special ability and created multiple copies of himself. The clones began attacking Ryo from every direction. His goal was to reach Ryo's real body and bring the battle to an end. Then he told him that he knew very well that Ryo did not want to destroy the world. In fact, he knew exactly what Ryo truly desired deep within his heart. For a fraction of a second, Ryo's attention wavered. Mernes instantly seized the opportunity and attacked him directly, but the difference in power was still overwhelming. Ryo froze him in place. Then he delivered a decisive blow and slammed him to the ground. After Ryo managed to defeat 3 of the great generals, only Shutina remained before him. While he was searching for her, he was surprised to see Lily regain consciousness. She looked at him with sadness and shock before beginning to scold him. She told him that she could not believe he had forgotten her, and that she would bring him back to his senses no matter what it cost. At that moment, rage ignited inside Ryo. His anger became so intense that it felt as though he might shatter his own teeth. Then he told her to come closer. The instant she rushed toward him, he used lightning magic and defeated her in a single moment. Thus, Ryo had truly managed to bring down 3 of the great generals. On the other side, Echidna realized that the end was approaching. Because of that, she decided to use the forbidden spell she had avoided all this time. She quickly contacted Shutina through telepathy and informed her of what she intended to do. Shutina hesitated at first, but soon smiled and announced her agreement with the plan. After that, Echidna began preparing to unleash her final spell, but before she did, memories of the past returned to her. She remembered the days when she used to speak with her father, the previous Demon King. Her father had explained the details of that dangerous spell and told her about the terrible price its user would have to pay. He also entrusted her with the responsibility of leading their people after his death and bringing prosperity to them. However, he warned her about one obstacle that could stand in her path. That obstacle was the hero Ryo. He explained that if the day ever came when she had to face him, she would have no choice but to use that spell if she wished to defeat him. Returning to the present, Shutina launched her attack against Ryo from every direction, unleashing an endless torrent of magical anime spells, but Ryo effortlessly blocked every attack using counterspells. At that point, Shutina told him an important truth. She said that he had not killed any of the 4 generals yet. That could only mean one thing. He did not truly want to destroy the kingdom as he claimed. The only thing he truly wanted to destroy was himself. Then she launched a powerful fire spell toward him. However, Ryo did not merely copy it. He evolved it and sent it back with even greater power. Shutina had already reached her limit. She tried to convince him to abandon his path and return to his senses, but all of her efforts were in vain. Suddenly, Ryo rushed toward her and delivered a violent punch that sent her flying away. Afterward, he began activating a spell in preparation for finishing her off. But Echidna had already completed her own final spell. That spell possessed the power to nullify all of the hero's abilities for a full 4 seconds. Its name was Ryo's Demise. Echidna unleashed the spell directly at him. The surprising part was that Ryo did not attempt to block it or evade it. Instead, he simply smiled. Then he looked at her calmly and said, "Thank you, Echidna." At that moment, he closed his eyes and allowed himself to sink into a sea of memories. He began reliving every moment of his life from the day he had been created. He remembered the single phrase that had been engraved into his mind from the very beginning: protect the world from danger. That mission was the only thing he had ever known throughout his entire life. He also remembered how people celebrated him whenever he saved the world. They always welcomed him with happiness and joy every time he achieved victory. But as time passed, people gradually began treating what he did as something ordinary. After all, that was the duty of a hero, wasn't it? As the years continued to pass, Ryo kept fighting demons and defeating them until peace spread across the world for a very long time. Eventually, the existence of the hero lost its significance. People slowly began distancing themselves from him. Because of that, he decided to search for a new threat that he could eliminate. Perhaps then the glory of the hero would return once again. Thus, Ryo began a long journey in search of any danger he could save the world from and regain his position as a hero. He wandered across continents and distant lands for 500 entire years, yet he failed to find a single threat worthy of battle. As the centuries passed, boredom slowly began to consume him. He found himself questioning the purpose of his existence. What was the point of his abilities continuing to evolve without limit if there was no longer an enemy capable of standing against him? And what was the value of his life if there was no one left who needed saving? Yet the voice implanted deep within his mind continued repeating the same command: protect the world, for that is your role. Days passed and became years, then decades, while the world continued to enjoy peace and stability. But that peace never satisfied Ryo. He became obsessed with finding someone he could fight. Eventually, he even began interfering in civil conflicts between humans themselves simply because he could no longer endure the emptiness consuming him. At one point, a terrifying idea entered his mind. He considered bringing the fallen heroes back to life and turning them into enemies who threatened the world, just so he could defeat them and save everyone once again. But after some time, he realized a painful truth. He realized that he had never been doing all of this for the sake of the world. He had been doing it for himself. He admitted to himself that he was not the hero he had always believed himself to be. The thoughts that had crossed his mind were no different from those of the most terrifying villains. In fact, he felt that he had become worse than the demon kings themselves, because in the end, all he truly wanted was to hear the cheers of the people and witness the celebrations after every victory. Everything changed when he heard that the Demon King's army had launched a new campaign, this time under the leadership of Queen Echidna. At first, he assumed it was merely another invasion like all the others, but what happened afterward shocked him. Echidna destroyed all of the heroes he had planned to revive. She also destroyed the laboratory and everything inside it. When Ryo arrived at the battlefield and witnessed the events with his own eyes, his shock became even greater. He watched the queen issue clear orders to her army not to harm civilians, women, or children. She repeatedly emphasized that their goal was not extermination or destruction. Their goal was to form an alliance between humans and demons. At that moment, Ryo could not comprehend what he was hearing. How could a demon queen possess such compassion? How could she carry such noble intentions? He even began feeling that Echidna deserved the title of hero more than he did. Even so, he did not want to rush to judgment. Because of that, he began secretly capturing soldiers and interrogating them in order to learn the truth about her. He repeatedly questioned them about the queen's character and her true objectives. Surprisingly, every single one of them gave him the same answer. Echidna was genuinely striving to bring peace between the two worlds. Once he confirmed the truth of that information, he made his decision. He decided to approach her personally and verify everything for himself. That was why he joined the Demon King's army. As for everything that followed, those events were already known. Returning to the present, Echidna had successfully immobilized Leo completely, and the spell known as Leo's demise now prevented him from using any of his abilities. Leo smiled calmly and said that he would finally die. He explained that he had become nothing more than a weak person once again, just as he had been in the beginning. As for Echidna, she declared that she had done everything she could. The rest was now the responsibility of the others. The problem, however, was that the 4 generals were completely exhausted after the battle. Each of them could barely remain standing. Even so, Edvard gathered the last remnants of his strength. Then he charged toward Leo and delivered a direct strike. Leo collapsed onto the ground, and his final breaths slowly began slipping away. Sadness spread among Echidna and the 4 generals. Only one question echoed within all of their hearts. Why had he done this to himself? And why had he forced them to reach such an ending? They approached him while he was still barely alive. At that moment, Leo opened his eyes and smiled. Echidna asked him whether he was happy now that he had finally been defeated. Then she told him that she could have killed him long ago if she had wanted to, but Leo paid no attention to those words. Instead, he asked her to take the Philosopher's Stone she had been searching for. He explained that all of his wounds would completely heal in only 300 seconds. While they were speaking, he began counting the remaining seconds himself. Then he informed them that only 270 seconds remained. Echidna asked him whether he truly believed that what he had done was the correct decision. Leo answered with confidence, "Because the human world and the demon world will live in peace under your leadership, this is the right decision." Then he once again asked her to take the Philosopher's Stone and use it to save her world. At last, Echidna stepped closer to him, but her response completely surprised everyone. She told him that she was not interested in his heroic ideals or his plans to sacrifice himself. Then she openly declared her decision before everyone. She had already decided to recruit him into the Demon King's army. She explained that she had many reasons for doing so. For one thing, he would make the perfect opponent whenever she wanted someone to spar with. For another, he would become the ambassador who connected the human world and the demon world. Leo tried to object and reminded them that only 160 seconds remained, but nobody cared about that anymore. Instead, everyone began speaking to him happily, as though the matter had already been settled. At that moment, Shutina suddenly interrupted and asked him whether he was truly that foolish. How could he think about killing himself simply because of the voice constantly ordering him to protect humanity? Then she told him that the solution was far simpler than he imagined. All he had to do was enter his own mind and stop that voice from controlling him. At first, he could hardly believe it. Nevertheless, he decided to try. He followed her instructions step by step. To his surprise, it actually worked. For the first time in his life, he succeeded in silencing the voice that had accompanied him for centuries. At that moment, it felt as though an enormous burden had been lifted from his shoulders. He could not stop himself from laughing. After all those centuries of suffering and searching for an answer, he had discovered that the solution had been incredibly simple. At that moment, he remembered the words of the demon Albert, the final words Albert had spoken before they parted ways. He had told Leo that one day he would finally be able to ignore those orders and live for himself. Those words had remained engraved within Leo's heart ever since. After that, Echidna extended her hand toward him with a smile. She congratulated him on officially joining the ranks of the generals. Thus, everyone returned to the royal castle once more. There, Leo announced that he had reached his final decision. He had decided to serve Queen Echidna and devote everything he had toward helping her achieve her dream of creating peace between humans and demons. At that point, Echidna burst into laughter, and her happiness was obvious to everyone around her. As for the 4 generals, each of them returned to handling their own responsibilities. And in the end, everyone found themselves living in a state of happiness and peace unlike anything they had experienced in a very long time. And here the story comes to an end, my dear viewers. We truly hope you enjoyed it and had fun watching. Before you close the video, do not forget to leave a like to support us, subscribe to the channel for more upcoming episodes, and activate the notification bell so you can watch all the newest anime releases as soon as they arrive. Share your thoughts with us in the comments, and we will meet again in future episodes. Until next time.